Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to Check Me. In light of keeping up to date on everything Philadelphia and free agency, just want to give an update on today, the moves that we made, some decisions that may affect some other players. I think the very first thing we want to talk about is us re-signing James Bradberry. That's a big news. Signed him to a 3-year, $38 million contract. So now his contract is $20 million fully guaranteed. It could be worth up to $44 million with incentives. If he continues to be an All-Pro, Pro Bowler, interceptions. These are some of the things where they get paid more. So, essentially, a 3-year deal up to $44 million. Now we know that the Giants cut him last all season. And we picked him up this year. He had a phenomenal year for us this year. Other than that, that one play in the Super Bowl, everyone's talking about, which I don't think is a hold. But hey, look, it's a hold. But the refs called it, whatever. During the offseason, he pretty much mentioned that he was not going to play for cheap. So we signed him to a 1-year deal, and then we pretty much recognize, hey, look, he's worth it if we want to continue on our team. Well, if he's worth it as far as him bringing value to our team, so we re-signed him to a 3-year deal. Now, it's interesting because that also came earlier this year. They pretty much the Eagles gave Darius Slay permission for a potential trade. Slay's in his last year of his contract. He's in his final year of the contract. He's a Pro Bowl corner. Should have been an All-Pro. He wants a new deal. Heading into the new year, so he may play the market. So his current deal has a base salary for $17 million in 2023, with a cap number of $26.11 million. Now, what happens typically with trade permissions is what Slay will do is go out in the market, see what he can get for what they can get for a trade, and then return to the Eagles and say, hey, look, here's essentially what I'm looking for based on the market value. Now, understand this: Slay is 34. How old is Slay? Slay is I think 31 years old. Slay's 31 years old, and he's looking for a new contract. He wants that top money. I think that is where he's 32 years, just turned 32 years old. So think of a cornerback and their longevity in this league. I think the toughest position in football. Do you give a guy a 3-year, 2-year, 3 or 4-year contract and pay him that much? Do you give him a 2-year contract and pay him that much? I think Slay wants to be in Philadelphia. No doubt about that. He mentioned that on his podcast, and I'm sure you believe it. I believe it, and he knows this well too. I think that he stays. It'll be interesting to see what the deal will be like. But it's all about Howie Roseman, how he works out these other things. And essentially, what a GM is doing is this: a GM is saying, "Hey, look, let me work some things out with other players," and then go back to them and ask them about certain things. He has a list of what each player wants based on what their agent said. Now, Drew Rosenhaus is representing Darius Slay, so he represents a lot of guys. So probably somebody under Drew, but this is he's gonna go to other guys, work some other things out to see where it can make most sense with Slay. I think it's important that we retain our secondary. We retain Slay. We retain CJ. Bradberry is a big piece as well too. So. This is one of the reasons why we're good this year. We had a lot of guys who were on 1-year deals, who had contracts where, they're 2 years away from their final year. So this is their audition year. And the NFL, the year before your last year on the contract is your audition year. So with Slay, it's I hope he stays, but we'll continue to watch that. We also signed Rashad Penny to a 1-year, $135 million contract with $600,000 guaranteed, as a max value of 2.1. Which can be just if he has a certain amount of yards, catches, etc. Now, we still can draft our top running back, and it's on a rookie deal, and not have to pay him so much. Now, does it make sense for us to get a guy who suffered a season-ending broken fibula in week 5 or 6, I think, last year, who has had marginal stats? The difference between Penny and Miles Sanders is this: Miles Sanders is a lateral runner, and one thing that we saw that was that Kenneth Gainwell can, but not to the ground and pound we're looking for from a running back. We want a downhill runner, and Rashad Penny is a downhill runner. I think it's a good pickup for what we're looking for, especially with our offense, our gap schemes and whatnot, and how they block and how our offensive line blocks. But I think that's what they saw. This Rashad Penny's not coming in to be RB1. I still think RB1 may be the guy who we're looking to draft with our 10th pick. So I see where it makes sense. I see where it helps us out. And yes, Miles Sanders tweeted earlier today. Hey, look, thank you, Philly, for everything. So Miles Sanders is pretty much this is his farewell. I know he's looking for a contract. I know he'll go to a team and they'll find value in him. But this Penn State running back style where it's lateral side to side movements. You're not in between tackles. You're not hitting the hole hard. Not saying Saquon Barkley's done a better job of this year, but when he came into the league, he was, elusive when, especially with some offenses, they want guys to be downhill. Still a lot out there. You still have free agents to sign. Isaac Seumalo. We still have to look at Boston Scott. What does this mean for Boston Scott? So if we draft RB1, we get Kenneth Gainwell. Is Boston Scott going to be dispensable? Do we not draft the running back? Do we get like offensive tackle? What do we do with this? With that first round pick, the 10th round, number 10 pick? We can easily keep Boston Scott and say, hey, look, we don't need RB1. They may can say Gainwell's the future, and we like Gainwell and Scott. We had to sign Cox, Sue, Robert Quinn, CJ. So there's a lot of things out there. We're just getting started free agency, but these are some of the big moves Philadelphia made today as they try to set the roster going into minicamp, going to the draft, minicamp, into the next season. So stay up to date on any Philadelphia Eagles news. I'm trying to give it to you guys as soon as I get it and hear about it. I'm not going out there, talking to anybody, but just doing my own personal investigative journalism to see what's credible and not credible, and how it makes sense for the Eagles team.